Good evening and thanks for joining us. NDSU's Innovation Challenge held its semifinal round Monday afternoon.
I had a chance to be there and hear from a few challenge winner hopefuls and their stories. Challenge is an event for students to present new ideas within entrepreneurship, social impact, and graduate research. I had the opportunity to interview an aspiring DJ.
My name is Oreo Says Go. What I do is I like to make mashups. I like to mix different genres together and create something that two different groups of people could enjoy together. Started to get some gigs downtown Fargo at Pounds. I got them in the beginning of October, and I've been DJing almost every Friday, Saturday since then. I make a really cool, fun vibe, try to get everybody involved and make it a good time.
Next, I interviewed the Mike Men, who have reinvented a fungal growth system to simplify and better the process of growing mushrooms.
My name's Nicholas Brodeen.
I'm Jacqueline Rindy.
And we are Mike Men. The innovation today is a fungal growth system. It's basically used for education, culinary, and home. So anybody that wants to grow mushrooms in high-end restaurants, shiitakes, enokis, lion's manes, all sorts of different types of fungi can be grown in the system. And the innovation part of the design is really centered around how we humidify the chamber and how we're able to allow airflow in without contamination. It's a suspended water bath, and it really helps a lot with the growth. It cuts down from 3 months growing period down to about a month and a half. And it can vary with that, obvious, depending on the species and the genes. But we have seen significantly increased colonization and fruiting times.
Finally, I interviewed the person who put this all together.
My name is Barb Villela. I'm the Communications Director for the NDSU Research and Technology Park. So we do an innovation challenge so they can come up with an idea in one of the three tracks. There's entrepreneurship, graduate research, and social impact. So change the world, make it better, and then graduate research. So we have 37 teams this year. Whoever are the top innovators tonight will advance forward to December 3rd. And that will be the final pitch and awards where they'll do a 3-minute pitch. Today, the judges walked around and asked questions, and the students really learned a lot of information. So today was a lot of education for them. So,
if you have an idea that you think can change the world, you need to register for the Innovation Challenge. Sam Goodman, Bison Information Network News.
For more information on how the Innovation Challenge operates, you can visit ndsuresearchpark.com. This past weekend, the NDSU Equine Center took center stage for the 54th Annual Bison Stampede Rodeo. The NDSU Rodeo Club hosted the event and invited teams from as far as Iowa to compete. Men on each team battled it out in bareback and saddle bronco riding, bull riding, tie-down and team roping, and steer wrestling. The women faced each other in breakaway roping, goat tying, barrel racing, and as well as team roping. The rodeo marked the end of the season for the fall, and it will pick back up near the end of the spring semester. For more information on how to get involved in the NDSU Rodeo Club, contact Club Advisor Tate Eck via email.
Due to decreased enrollment nationwide, North Dakota State University needs to reduce its budget by $5.5 million. For long-term planning, administration is asking that all colleges submit a budget that will reduce spending by 10% and submit a budget prioritization proposal. A committee formed from deans, chairs, and faculty will work to evaluate the budget proposal. In the short term, there will be a hiring slowdown and a new VSIP. Currently, salary cuts, furloughs, hiring freezes, and eliminating pay raises are not a possibility.
This past Wednesday, the NDSU bookstore held the semi-annual grad fair for seniors who are receiving their diplomas this fall. The event featured many different items that students were able to purchase, such as caps and gowns, frames for diplomas, as well as a chance to order class rings. Along with the students who participated, the NDSU Office of Registration and Records, the NDSU Career Center, and Graduate School were also there to help. Students who showed up for the fair even had a chance to sign up to win prizes. Although the grad fair has come and gone, all items for sale at the event are now available at the bookstore for the rest of the semester.
Last Sunday, NDSU's Memorial Union started operating under slightly different hours. The union had previously been open from 6 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Thursday. While that opening time still stands, the closing time has shifted backwards by an hour, and only the main level is available for students between 10 and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday's hours remain the same, and Sunday's closing time is now 10 p.m. These times do not account for holiday operating hours, as this Saturday and Sunday, the union will be closed to observe Veterans Day weekend.
A little over 380,000 gallons of crude oil have spilled into a North Dakota wetland this past week in the most recent leak from the Keystone Pipeline. This will be the second time in 2 years that the Keystone Pipeline has resulted in large oil spills in North Dakota. Effects of the leak has left about a half an Olympic pool swimming pool worth of oil covering half an acre of land in Edinburgh, North Dakota. The director of North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality's Carl Rockman says, quote, "The leak is among the largest in the state, but the spill does not appear to pose an immediate threat to public health, as people do not live by the wetland, nor is it a source of drinking water." At least 5 officials testified that President Trump attempted to pressure Ukraine to launch investigations for political gain. Now the world will be able to hear from some of them next week.
House Democrats announcing televised public impeachment hearings will begin on Wednesday, starting with top diplomat to Ukraine Bill Taylor and Deputy Assistant Secretary George Kent. Then next Friday, Marie Yovanovitch, the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, who was fired by President Trump.
Those open hearings will be an opportunity for the American people to evaluate the witnesses for themselves.
It comes after House investigators released more than 300 pages of Taylor's testimony from his bombshell deposition, where he revealed it was his clear understanding security assistance money would not come until the president of Ukraine committed to pursue the investigation. Taylor also discussed his concerns with Trump's personal attorney Rudy Giuliani's involvement with Ukraine policy, calling it a nightmare. House Democrats hoping Taylor's public testimony will help shape their abuse of power case against President Trump.
If you want an initial hit, someone to describe exactly what took place, I don't know if anyone's better than Ambassador Taylor.
Sources telling CNN the White House worries what Taylor will say in public testimony. His earlier deposition was seen as damaging, alleging an explicit quid pro quo with Ukraine, with Trump freezing military aid in exchange for Ukraine announcing investigations against the president's rivals for political gain. Trump's Republican allies continue to change their defenses, including highlighting this part of Kurt Volker's testimony, telling lawmakers, "I didn't know that there was a quid pro quo."
His account is consistent with the fundamental facts. There was nothing wrong on the call transcript.
Other Republicans taking it a step further.
What I can tell you about the Trump policy toward the Ukraine, it was incoherent. They seemed to be incapable of forming a quid pro quo.
Meantime, the Washington Post this morning reports that Attorney General William Barr rejected a request from the president to hold a news conference, publicly declaring he did not break any laws during his July 25th phone call with Ukraine's leader. Despite the report, some House Democrats still remain cautious of Barr.
Perhaps it is a measure that he sees of the gathering storm clouds on the horizon, and he's being just a tad bit cautious here. But frankly, I'm not terribly trusting of Attorney General Barr, so we'll see.
Jennifer Williams, the Vice President's senior advisor, arrived on Capitol Hill to testify. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton is scheduled to testify on Thursday, but is not expected to show up. And now we're going to take a look at the weather for the week in the Fargo-Moorhead area.
Today we saw mostly sunshine, but we're still in a cold weather pattern that's been in our area for the last few days. We only saw highs topping out in the mid-20s, and overnight we should expect to see temperatures dropping down into the mid-teens. Over to our 7-day forecast, it's looking like we'll get a brief warm-up this weekend, as Friday and Saturday look to get into the low 40s for a high Saturday. However, see us with rain and snow mix for some of the day, but no heavy winds are expected. Right after the warm-up comes 2 days with lows in the single digits. The rest of the forecast looks to warm up slightly, but a little snow is expected on Wednesday, before mostly clear skies come our way Thursday. Apart from a few hiccups, we should be seeing mostly clear skies, but it's definitely time to bust out that winter jacket.
After the break, an NDSU team wins the construction management competition, the Memorial Union Coffee Shop has moved to a new location, and the Pride of North Dakota is performing this weekend. We'll be right back. A group of 4 NDSU construction management students take home the title at the 2019 Upper Midwest Intercollegiate Construction Management Quiz Bowl. The event was held at the University of Minnesota on October 25th. The Quiz Bowl, sponsored by the Minnesota Construction Association, is open to all Upper Midwest schools that offer degrees in construction management. The competition has been held annually since 2012 and is judged by professionals in the industry. Questions asked during competition represent the knowledge that students are expected to know when they graduate. The construction management team looks forward to next year's competition, where they will try to defend their title.
For all of you coffee drinkers out there, North Dakota State University's Dining Center announced the arrival of a new coffee shop in the Memorial Union on October 28th. Originally named the Memorial Union Coffee Shop, is now being replaced with a Caribou Coffee. Because of this new change, the Union Coffee Shop will be temporarily relocated during renovation to the downstairs food court area of the Union from November 4th through January 14th, which will be opening the Boo's opening debut.
The NDSU Gold Star Marching Band presents Sounds of the Gridiron, an event at the Fargo Dome on Sunday, November 10th at 2 p.m. This event will showcase the band's 2019 Bison pregame show and songs from their halftime shows. The Gold Star Marching Band boasts 210 members from 62 different majors. Sounds of the Gridiron is free and open to anyone who wants to support the marching band. If you would like to get involved with the Gold Star Marching Band, visit their website at goldstarbands.org. After the break, Carson Wentz is hosting his annual charity event and the Hollywood Minute and Health Minute.
Children with no siblings may be at higher risk for a common health condition. Mandy Gaither has more in today's Health Minute.
More than 13 million children and adolescents in the United States struggle with obesity, and a new study published in the Journal of Nutrition, Education, and Behavior suggests children without siblings may be more likely to be obese. The study researched and compared 27 only children and 41 children with siblings. It determined children without a brother or sister had less healthy eating behaviors. Mothers who participated in the study completed questionnaires and a child dietary log. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, childhood obesity is most prevalent among 12 to 19-year-olds. While the study doesn't provide answers on why only children are more likely to be overweight, the hope is to build on this body of research and make parents aware of the increased risk in an effort to prevent excess weight and obesity in children. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The CDC says Hispanics are most likely to be obese, followed closely by African Americans.
Former NDSU quarterback Carson Wentz is bringing his annual charity softball game back to the Fargo-Moorhead area. Softball game is put on every year by the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback and his charity, Audience of One, dating back to 2017. Last year was the first year Wentz and AL1 brought the event to Fargo, inviting some of his former NDSU teammates for the game and a home run derby. The date for this coming year's game is set for June 26th. For more information on how to get tickets and more details on the event itself, visit AO1Foundation.org.
Minnesota wildlife researchers are collecting deer spleens ahead of the deer hunting season opener. The Department of Natural Resources are testing the effects of insecticides on over 800 spleens of white-tailed deer. The insecticides are heavily used in corn and soybean fields that have had a negative effect on the wildlife, including bees, birds, and fish. Officials with the Minnesota DNR say that this is an attempt to be on the cutting edge of managing herds of deer. A friendly reminder to all farmers to watch the insecticides that they spray on their crops.
An epic, Oscar-winning crime drama is returning to the big screen. David Daniel has that and more in the Hollywood Minute.
Part of what we're going to do together is tell your story.
Marriage Story traces the breakup of a couple who still love each other. Star Scarlett Johansson says filmmaker Noah Baumbach makes everyone in it relatable.
Noah doesn't judge any of his characters, and you sort of feel when you watch it like there's a bit of all of these characters kind of in us, and I think it affects people deeply when they see stuff like that they see kind of a part of themselves up there.
Marriage Story is now in theaters and debuts on Netflix December 6th.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
The Godfather Part 2 is back in theaters for its 45th anniversary. The only sequel to a Best Picture winner to also win the top Academy Award will screen at more than 600 U.S. theaters on November 10th, 12th, and 13th. Check fathomevents.com for showtimes. The creators of This Is Spinal Tap, the classic metal mockumentary, have settled their lawsuit over the film's soundtrack. Harry Shearer, Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Rob Reiner had sued Universal Music Group, claiming they'd been cheated out of royalties. Under the deal, Universal will keep distributing Spinal Tap recordings, and the creators will eventually receive the rights. Time to cue up that Tap classic, Give Me Some Money. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Coming up after the break, Isaac, you're saying you have a lot to go over in sports.
Yeah, I do. It's that time of year where fall sports are wrapping up and winter sports are getting underway. I'll try to make sense of all this madness we got going on here when we come back. The NDSU football team has already played 3/4 of its regular season, and at this point, it seems more than fair to say The team has not skipped a beat from last year's unbeaten season. After a lopsided 56-17 victory over Youngstown State last weekend, the Bison have won each of their last 30 games dating back to October 2017. This is the second time in FCS history a program has owned a 30-game winning streak, joining themselves from 2012 to 2014 when they won 33 straight. NDSU is currently second in the nation in both scoring offense and scoring defense and winning games by nearly 28 points on average. The Bison return home this Saturday for their annual Harvest Bowl game against Western Illinois. Tune in next week for highlights and post-game reaction. It's basketball time once again in Fargo, and for the NDSU women's basketball team, it's a chance to start fresh. Last Friday, the team held an exhibition against Minnesota Crookston, and new head coach Jory Collins guided the Bison to a decisive 88-51 victory. True freshman Ryan Cobbins led all scorers in the win with 18 points, and every Bison who played scored at least 2. Last night, NDSU opened their regular season with a 95-63 loss against Northern Iowa, and were led by 15 from Michelle Geislerova. The Bison have their home opener set for Sunday at 1 against Northern Illinois. As for the men's basketball team, their season started with a tough test on the road against Kansas State Tuesday night. NDSU had their hands full early, but managed to keep it close for most of the night. Early first half action, a drive and kick here from Rocky Cruiser leads to a 3 for Vinny Shahid. That's 3 of his 8 points on the night. Bison were down early. Some unselfish ball movement here on this possession leads to a straight-on 3 from Cruiser, who banks it in off the glass. NDSU's up 22-21 at the half. Second half now, it's Tyson Ward spotting up for 3 on the right wing to tie the game, but the rest of the half belonged to the Wildcats. This hook shot coming up in traffic from McCall Mayween drops, and the Bison only shoot 29% from the floor. They lose by 13. The team will hold their home opener tonight at 7 against Mayville State. The NDSU wrestling team rang in its new season with a solid showing at home Sunday. Competing in its first home duel of the season against Cal State Bakersfield, the home team took care of business, winning 7 of its 10 matches. The Bison had 3 wrestlers nationally ranked in their weight classes compete, and all 3 won their decisions, including a tech fall from Cam Sikora at 133. NDSU will host the 49th annual Bison Open at the Shack this weekend, beginning at 9 a.m. The NDSU volleyball team continues to inch closer to a playoff berth with each passing week. After a weekend split against Purdue Fort Wayne and Western Illinois, the Bison are 6-6 in the Summit League, and that's good for 5th in the conference with 4 matches remaining. NDSU holds that position 3 wins above 3 other teams tied for 6th, and the top 6 make the conference tournament. The Bison are on the road again this weekend and can punch their postseason ticket as early as tomorrow. And finally, a shocker in women's soccer. For the first time in 11 years, NDSU is not in the Summit League tournament. The team lost to Denver on Sunday 1-0 on a goal by the Pioneers' Mary DeWalt in the 70th minute. This result caps off an 8-7-3 season overall and a 3-3-2 record in conference. Each of those 3 conference losses came on the road. Here's a look at what the standings look like entering Sunday. NDSU just needed to tie Denver to get into the tournament, potentially knocking out UND in the process. Oral Roberts started Sunday 2 points out of 4th. But with the Bison's loss and a Golden Eagles victory, Oral Roberts gets in as the 3 seed, UND takes 4th via tiebreaker, and NDSU is out. The tournament this year is hosted by South Dakota State, and the 2 semifinal games took place earlier today. And that's This Week in Sports. Up next is the last check of the weather and Bison on the Street. We'll be right back.
Students are being encouraged to grab their swimsuits as the NDSU Wellness Center is hosting a movie night in the pool area. They're calling it a dive-in movie.
The Wellness Center will have 2 showings of the 2016 Disney film Mona for students just looking for a relaxing night on campus before the end of the semester. Those who show up early get to watch the movie on one of the Wellness Center's floats. The first showing was tonight at 6. They'll play the film again at 8.
3 weeks from today, most American families may be eating Thanksgiving dinner right now.
That's why I asked students what Thanksgiving food they were looking forward to eat on this week's Bison on the Street.
It's got to be the mashed potatoes, especially when they're because my mom makes them when they're super.
Sorry about the technical difficulties there, but guys, I gotta ask you, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
You know, I think it gets slept on probably more than anything else. Stuffing, you know? You can't go wrong with a good stuffing and gravy combination. I just love it so much.
I'll keep it simple. Sweet potatoes with a little bit of cinnamon sugar.
I have multiple different kinds. Obviously, the turkey leg is the one I go to the most. I love the turkey. I'm also a big fan of sweet potatoes. But what my family does is that they put marshmallows on top and they toast it.
Wow.
It's really, really delicious.
Yay or nay on pumpkin pie?
Oh, I'm all for pumpkin pie.
I'm not a pumpkin pie guy. I'm an apple pie guy.
As long as there's whipped cream.
Good idea.
All right. Now let's take one last look at the weather for the week ahead. For the next 2 days, we should be getting a brief warm-up here in Fargo with expected highs in the low 40s. Saturday looks to be a little wet outside with a rain-snow mix in the forecast. Apart from this weekend, expect mostly chilly temperatures, including lows of single digits Sunday and Monday. Wednesday, we should see a little bit of snow in the area, but clear skies and a high above freezing are expected for next Thursday.
I do apologize. That was the wrong forecast, but when I did look at the weather for this upcoming week, I cringed a little bit when I saw that 0 for the low this week. Don't like that at all.
Not a big fan of that. I have work at a Hornbachers and I have to get up quite early in the morning, so I have to deal with that right away when I wake up.
Well, that's it for this week's show. From all of us at Bison Information Network News, thank you for watching.
Good night, everyone, and be sure to tune in next Thursday at 6 p.m.